Bridget Kendall, BBC News.
Well, Abdul Omar is a Syrian opposition activist based in the UK. He joins us now from our Birmingham studios. Good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. What do you make of the Russian peace initiative? Potentially new elections, a new constitution, and President Assad willing to sit down with the opposition to try and sort this thing out. Do you think all that could work?
Well, the chance for talks with the opposition was thrown away by Assad's regime long ago. Let's not forget, this is not the first or second month of this uprising. We are on the 11th month and 7,000 people killed in. How do we expect anybody from the opposition to engage into dialogue with such an individual? In fact, this is a slap in the face to the hundreds, and I repeat, hundreds of people killed since the weekend. It's a slap in the face of young people like Hamza al-Bakur, who lost half his face only 2 days ago.
So the Arab League's call and the opposition's call that President Assad should step down before any kind of meaningful talks can take place, that's non-negotiable.
Absolutely. Otherwise, you will never see any authority in the streets of Homs, Hama, Idlib or Dera if we go through a form other than this one. We already know that Assad has lost all authority. A few kilometers outside of Damascus and a few kilometers outside of central Aleppo, there is no authority anymore in Syria. How can we expect to go back to a time where this man has got any rule whatsoever on this country?
I mean, are you denying the fact that President Assad does have supporters? I mean, we saw the kind of reception that Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, received when he arrived in Damascus. We know that some of the minority religious groups, particularly the Christians and, of course, the Alawites, who the religion, of course, that President Assad belongs to, we know that they're particularly worried about any change of leadership. I mean, the man does have support within the country, doesn't he?
Well, it is comical to see this. We've never seen a crowd gathering to welcome a foreign minister of any country in Syria, in Europe or anywhere else. This is not the head of state arriving. This is just a foreign minister. Yet the regime felt obliged to put a show to welcome such an individual. In terms of the actual support that he draws, let's not forget that for 40 years this regime could not have survived had it not given certain groups of people certain benefits. There's a lot of people that have benefits vested with Assad remaining in power. That's who he draws his support from. But the main support comes from outside the country, comes from Russia, comes from Iran, and these are the people that are propping him right now through his armed forces.
But where does the opposition go now, bearing in mind that the UN route seems to have been closed off because of the Russian and Chinese veto? On the ground, the opposition forces, the Free Syria Army, they don't have the kind of weaponry to deal with the Syrian army. And the fact is, the kind of defections that perhaps the opposition was hoping for has not happened. There's an impasse that the situation has reached now on the ground, hasn't there? Where does the opposition go?
Well, we have to look, why do we have this situation on the ground? Why do we not have these defections that would actually boost the opposition? If you are to look at the army ranks, if they were to defect in significant numbers with significant level of hardware, they have nowhere to go right now within Syria. There is no cover from the ground or from the air for them, which is exactly why we are asking for things such as a buffer zone or a no-fly zone, so that we can encourage these defections and allow them to act as a catalyst.
But in the short term, that's just not going to happen. I mean, President Obama has made it clear that there have to be negotiations. He's in an election year. The French President Sarkozy, instrumental, of course, in the situation in Libya, he is in an election year as well. Military intervention, any kind of no-fly zone, that's just not going to happen.
Well, if we are to look at things that can and must happen immediately, we should at least work towards providing a humanitarian corridor. Surely the international community cannot stand in the way of providing a supply of basic medical equipment and allowing international recognized organizations such as the Red Cross, the Red Crescent, Doctors Without Borders to go into the country with or without the support of the regime and actually do something that helps the people. If the regime stands in the way of that, and if leaders of the world are scared of their electorate to even go forward with steps like that, then surely we live in this very, very sad world today.
Abdul Omar from the Syrian Network for Human Rights. It's good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Northern Ireland